'Tis the season to make inaccurate predictions. How the hell are you feeling out there? It's the new year. I'm wishing you all a very, very happy new year going into the year of Grand Theft Auto 2026. Hope everyone is doing well, and it's time for the 2026 video game prediction Extravaganza. And what shall take place today is I have this list on the side of your screen here, and I'm going to just fill it in with, I've been jotting down predictions. I got a bunch of random shit just wrote down on this document here, and as I'm looking over it, it's already things on here that are incorrect that I got to scratch off that I've kept this list for a while. I got like 40 different predictions that we're going to be going over here. I don't know why I like predictions so much. I guess I like being wrong, looking back in a year and being like, wow, you were really, really fucking wrong. Good job on being wrong a whole lot. I don't know. I've always enjoyed trying to predict things as like an outsider, I have no insider knowledge about anything. So let's see what we can get right. Let's see what we can get wrong, which is mostly going to be this entire episode. So let me know your predictions in the comments below for the video games in 2026. So the first thing that I got down here is, I don't even know how to type this out. I'm going to say PC GOTY. I think we're going to get our first exclusive, like our first PC exclusive game as Game of the Year in 2026. Because if I'm not mistaken, I don't think this has ever happened before. I don't think a PC exclusive game has ever won Game of the Year at like the premier big Game Award celebration event. So like if you go to the Spike Game Awards, which is kind of what the Game Awards is now, but for, 2003 to 2013. So in 2003, Madden 04 won. In 2004, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas won. 05, RE4 won. 06, Oblivion won. 07, Bioshock. 08, Grand Theft Auto 4. 09, Uncharted 2. 2010, Red Dead 1. 2011, Skyrim. 2012, The Walking Dead. So none of those games were PC exclusive. And then when we go to 2013, that was Grand Theft Auto 5. Obviously, that is not PC exclusive. And then when you talk about Keighley Show, the Game Awards, that started in 2014, and that would have been the year that Dragon Age Inquisition won. And then it was like The Witcher and Overwatch. Okay, yeah, so 2014 was Dragon Age Inquisition, 2015 The Witcher 3, 2016 Overwatch, 2017 Breath of the Wild, 2018 God of War, 2019 Sekiro, 2020 The Last of Us Part 2, 2021 It Takes Two, 2022 Elden Ring, 2023 Baldur's Gate 3, 2024 Astrobot, 2025 Expedition 33. So there has never been since 2003 with like the main Game Award show, there's never been a Game of the Year winner that was a PC exclusive. That is going to change in 2026, according to yours truly, who is never wrong about anything. But the obvious question now becomes, well, if that is true, if that is going to be the case in 2026, well, what is the game that is going to win Game of the Year that is a PC exclusive in 2026? Well, of course, it's Half-Life 3. Half-Life 3 is going to win Game of the Year in 2026. Grand Theft Auto 6 isn't going to be eligible. It comes out late November. The cutoff is usually like the second week of November for Game of the Year. And I guess they could extend it for Grand Theft Auto and Grand Theft Auto alone, but that seems kind of ridiculous. And even if you do that, is the cutoff just going to be the day of its release in the hopes that reviewers already had a week to play it? And also in that scenario, if it's only reviewers who are the people who have had access to the game, well, out of all those sites, you're talking about maybe one or two people per site. It hasn't even been accessible to the wider public, the wider, the people in your staff who are not reviewing it have not had the chance to play it yet. That just doesn't seem like it's going to really work in Grand Theft Auto 6's favor. So Half-Life 3 is going to win Game of the Year in 2026. But here's the big kicker. Half-Life 3 is going to be $60. It's not going to be a full-priced $70 game. Isn't it fucking fun to be able to say these things as just like absolute facts? And so, well, whenever Half-Life 3 comes out in 2035, nobody's going to remember how wrong I was about any of this shit. But I will say, when you look at Half-Life Alyx, which I have running on the screen here, this was only $49.99. If I'm not mistaken, this was only $50 in the US at launch. And this is like as premier as you could possibly get for a VR game. This is like a full-blown AAA VR game. If any VR game could have justified a full price at launch, it would have been Half-Life Alyx. So I don't know, man. I have a feeling that Half-Life 3, and I'm not one of those people that's like a Valve, like cult religious super fanatic. Valve can do dumb shit just like any other company, and I don't even think making Half-Life 3 $70 would be Valve doing quote-unquote dumb shit. But they are a bit more consumer friendly than most. And I think it would just be a really dope move to be like, nah, we're still kind of cool with the $60 AAA full price game. I think we're going to stick with that. And we're also going to win Game of the Year on top of it. AAA, big budget thing, $60, Game of the Year, only on PC. Like, that's a bunch of little weird wins stacking in Valve's favor there from a consumer focusing standpoint, and also from, like, I think it's going to have crazy commercial success, which we'll get into later. But yeah, Half-Life 3 is, I do think it's going to come out in 2025, and I do think it's going to be Game of the Year. I do think it's going to come out in 2026, and I do think it's going to be Game of the Year in 2026. My next prediction is a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek kind of joke prediction, but I do think an Xbox game will be nominated for Game of the Year. I'm just going to put an Xbox game nominated. There's obviously the long-running joke that Xbox doesn't make great games. Where are the game? All the goofy shit when it's like, dude, Xbox... People are really struggle with nuance. Xbox as a games publisher is fucking crushing it. They've released so many great games in 2025 and 2024. But I will give people a little bit of credit. Like, in terms of releasing Game of the Year caliber titles, they don't really often do that. And I think that, and I've said, this is a prediction that I've gotten wrong in the past, where I think that in 2024, I said they would have 2 games nominated for Game of the Year, and they didn't have a single game nominated for Game of the Year. But I do think this year is the year for Xbox. This is definitely, we'll get to that in a second as well. This is absolutely not going to be the year for Xbox in terms of the Xbox, but I think they're going to have a game nominated for Game of the Year. And I guess we can go ahead and I'll tell you the game I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be Clockwork Revolution. I think that surprise drops in 2026, and I think that game is going to be reviewed glowingly. This is coming from the makers of Wasteland and the In Exile creators of great CRPGs, and now they are trying to make a big, bold swing into the mainstream, and they're doing it with a fucking wild first person, maybe lightly BioShock inspired, but with all of the choice and the consequence and the branching possibilities for your dialogue options and like time manipulation mechanics going on, and just a ton of crazy complex options, in-depth RPG stats, and all the things that you want from a CRPG, trying to marry that with like a mainstream, I guess BGS style. I don't even know what you call it, but the Western RPG that Bethesda kind of made as popular as it is the first person walking around and in real time. But yeah, doing all of these things in a way where it's also showing off their strengths as like great CRPG creators as well. So yeah, man, I think that Clockwork Revolution is going to have a major impact in 2026 if it does indeed release in 2026. As of right now, there's no official confirmation for 2026, but I think this is going to be the game at that Xbox Developer Direct that pops up, and it's like, oh yeah, it's releasing in, I don't fucking know, June, or probably, I would assume before June, since that's the showcase. So it's releasing in May or whatever the case may be. So yeah, Clockwork Revolution, this shit looks filthy, man. But let's just say it's not Clockwork. Let's say Clockwork doesn't come out in 2026. They still have a lot of other options here. They have Fable releasing. They have a new Gears of War game releasing. Forza Horizon 6 is releasing in 2026. The Halo remake, which I don't think is going to do a whole lot in terms of game of the year discussion, but they got a lot of games releasing in 2026. So I definitely think out of all of those, Clockwork is the one with the strongest shot at really making it. Forza Horizon 6 could be. I think that was one that got snubbed in 2021. I think that should have been nominated for game of the year in 2021. But yeah, I think an Xbox game will get nominated at Keighley's Game Awards showcase for the first time in years, which I do think Psychonauts 2 was nominated, but regardless, I think an Xbox game is finally nominated for Game of the Year after the little drought that they went on there. But for every Xbox W, there has to come an Xbox L, so let's talk about that as well. I think that an Xbox first-party game will release 1 week before or 1 week after Grand Theft Auto 6. So we're going to type in Xbox versus GTA 6. I think somehow, as everybody is wisely moving out of the way of Grand Theft Auto 6, somehow Xbox is going to stumble into releasing one of their big games right next to it. And I mean, at some point, it is kind of just the problem of you have so many fucking games. That's the thing I always try to tell people when they're saying Xbox is dead, Xbox ain't relevant, Xbox. It's okay, sure, the console, if you're talking about the console, you're absolutely correct. It's done. But as a fucking publisher of games, they are releasing more shit than ever. And something is going to have to slip to that holiday window. And you would hope that they have the foresight, you would hope that they have the intelligence of saying, okay, well, let's call the holiday window mid-October, or let's call the holiday window late December, and let's leave November 19th to December 19th all alone. Let's give them a full month. But I just don't quite have confidence in Xbox to really land this. I think that they're going to end up releasing a Gears of War E-Day right next to a Grand Theft Auto 6. I pray to God it's Gears of War E-Day, because I think the more likely one could be Fable. And I think that's the game that really has the most to lose when going up against a Grand Theft Auto 6, because you're talking about a game that is also 50 plus hours long and takes a lot of the player's time and is a big open world that you want to be invested in. And that's the problem. Don't stack those two together. Throw a little 5-hour Gears of War campaign, a week before Grand Theft Auto 6, sure. But the problem is not just the time. It's also the money. Everyone's fucking broke. It's expensive to breathe in 2026. So when you're saying, okay, we how many people are just rushing out there to throw $70 on the table for Gears of War, throw $70 on the table for fucking GTA 6? People are they're gonna have to make their decisions when purchasing, and no one's going to select anything over Grand Theft Auto 6. I understand there's 4 people watching this right now who are typing in the comments. I'm saying broad discussion in terms of the mainstream consensus. No one's picking Gears of War over Grand Theft Auto 6. No one's picking Fable over Grand Theft Auto 6. So I hope that they're not setting their studios and their big franchises up for failure. Next up, I have one that is still somewhat in the Xbox land. So let's just kind of knock out all the Xbox predictions back to back to back. I think we're going to see another big year. In 2025, that was a big year for titles just skipping Xbox outright, where there were no exclusivity deals in place whatsoever. Absalom is not exclusive to the Switch 2 or to PlayStation. Dispatch is not exclusive to the Switch 2 or PlayStation. These are just games, big games that are in a lot of people's game of the year conversation, game of the year list, games that sold, well, for Dispatch, millions of copies. And they just skipped Xbox. Like they were just like, it's not worth the juice, isn't worth the squeeze. And that is fucking really, really scary. I don't like that. I hate that for a big console manufacturer that used to be a legitimate mainstream player to have big titles just being like, it's not worth it. Unfortunately, for my prediction, I think that this is just going to be a continuation of that in 2026, but like even more so. And I mean, obviously, like I can't predict the titles that are going to skip Xbox, but I'm just going to type in big games, skip Xbox. And it's not necessarily big like AAA games because Xbox is already in good graces with a lot of the big AAA publishers, but like it's a lot of big indies that just don't have it in their budget to release on Xbox. A lot of big games that end up in that in-year conversation for Game of the Year that just are not on Xbox. And this year there were two really big ones. I think there's another one that I'm forgetting. It's like an indie JRPG. Anywho, but there were two really big ones. I suspect that that's probably going to double in 2026. And I think it'll just be a kind of cascading effect of the following year. It'll double again and double again and double again as like fewer and fewer Xbox consoles are sold, fewer and fewer developers are going to be committed to releasing their games on that platform. So that is going to be my fifth prediction. And I guess this is still kind of related, so we'll include it here. The Steam Machine, I don't think the Steam Machine is going to sell half as well as the Xbox Series X in its first year on the market. I believe estimates are around like 6.57 mil for Series X or the Series X and S for the first year, somewhere in that 6+ million territory. I don't think the Steam Machine is going to even hit like 3.5. I don't think it's going to cross much beyond 3 million Steam machines sold in the first year. I think that thing is going to be very, very expensive. And I think people are going to kind of, when they see the price tag, a lot of the hype is going to be completely deflated, because I know that's how I feel personally. And which, you know, I am not there are many popular items that I don't understand, I don't gravitate towards, I don't have any interest in, but this is really not one of those situations. This is a situation where I do have a ton of interest in this. I do really, really want to buy this. I was really hot on this. I was really hyped for it. And then the moment, what was it, the Linus Tech Tip, the video comes out where he was saying he was talking to someone at Valve, and he said, is this going to be priced like a console where you take a loss on it to sell the software, or are you doing the full PC thing where you price it like a PC and you don't want to take a loss at all to make it up on the back end? And they were like, yeah, more so the latter, more so it's going to be priced like a PC. And I'm like, oh shit. And now we have the situation where the AI bubble still hasn't popped just yet, and the price on RAM is through the fucking roof. So you're paying $1,000 for a stick of RAM. You got to assume that this damn machine is going to be pushing $1,200, something like that. Like if the Steam machine is $600, I'm probably in there day one. And so it's all dependent upon the pricing, but like with the way the vibe and the conversation has shifted, it to me, I'm assuming like 12 or 1,000 plus. And at that price, you just don't move mainstream hardware unless you're an iPhone. Go ahead and put the comments down unless you're an iPhone. But that's a situation where you walk into Verizon, you walk into AT&T, and by the time you walk out of there, you're paying $30 a month and a pack of gum for a $1,700 piece of hardware. It's like, it's very different. When I walk into Best Buy or GameStop, no one's going, hey, sign up. And I guess they do have the fucking their Best Buy credit cards and all that, but it's a very, very, very different experience. It's not the like ubiquitous sort of baked in experience where you walk into a Best Buy, GameStop, Walmart, whatever, and you walk out paying $14 a month for your new PlayStation 6 or whatever the case may be. So until that's the scenario, these $1,500, like that's just, we're talking absolute nonsense. So, you know what? We'll actually continue right off of that. How to word this, though? I guess we'll say SM Steam Machine 50% less than Series for year one sales. But to continue right off the back of that, I think that you will see no console announcement whatsoever from PlayStation or Xbox in 2026. And I guess let me be really clear before we move off of that. I don't mean like I'm sure you'll get new face plates and new additions for this and for that. Like I'm talking about, I do not think you will get the announcement of a PlayStation 6 or a Xbox Series Y or Xbox Hybrid 1 in 2026, because all the rumor at last year was that Xbox was going to launch their console in 2026 to get ahead of PlayStation. I highly, highly, highly doubt that is going to be the case. I mean, I don't know, honestly, because if it's true that they do not care at all about selling these things and they're not trying to make a mainstream play with their next piece of hardware, that they just want to have like a device for their hardcore dedicated users to have an option to carry their library forward if they want to, as Xbox kind of exits the hardware space. If that is truly their only intention, then I guess this works out just fine for them, where they're like, all right, well, if you want to go and buy this thing, sure, go buy it. It's a $1,600, $1,500 thing. And they're like, it is what it is. Go buy it if you want it. We're not going to wait for RAM prices to stabilize. We're not going to wait for the AI bubble to pop. But I do think PlayStation has a lot to lose in chasing Xbox in that situation, where if PlayStation says, okay, Xbox is launching their new console and it is significantly more powerful than what we have with the PlayStation 5, but the only way right now for us to compete is to launch maybe they don't launch it at $1,500, maybe they launch it at $1,100. It's still fucking $1,100, and I don't really know what you benefit. Because as we're seeing it right now, can you name a game that you've run on your PlayStation 5 that feels like too beefy, too powerful, too superior for your PlayStation 5 hardware? Have you had the God of War 2018 experience where your PlayStation starts smoking, or the Red Dead 2 experience where your PlayStation starts smoking? Because keep in mind, we're at that time. I know it's crazy. We're at that time of the PlayStation 5 console in the life cycle where this is the year where like Red Dead 2 would have released. We're right there at what should be the end of the console generation, and it does not feel that way at all. So I think that we still have years and years and years on I think these things can run until 2032, 2033 and be just fine before we see like the pinnacle of what is possible for this technology. For, the hardware that we already own. And it's also a thing of like, why chase in this situation? Why chase if you are like, who is going to prioritize development for an install base of 4 or 5 million? I mean, it's the thing you see right now. You should see what is happening right now internally and understand that like you have nothing to worry about in terms of third-party developers prioritizing, development for a more powerful Xbox, because no one is going to buy it. You know how you should know that? Because no one bought your fucking PS5 Pro, and that's why you're getting games that run worse on your PS5 Pro than on the base PS5. Developers are not prioritizing that. They're not optimizing for that. They don't make versions for that. They don't make features for that. They don't give a fuck about that thing because no one else did. No one rushed out there to buy it like they did with the PlayStation 4 because, really, people didn't even rush out there to buy the PS4 Pro. It's an unnecessary move forward. The PS4 Pro was definitely more necessary, and I think it was more widely adopted, but I don't think people are going to rush out to buy a $1,500 Series Y. And so I don't think you're going to have a ton to worry about of like, well, if we don't compete, if the developers aren't going to be releasing games for our system and they're going to be prioritizing the other system and we're going to get the worst versions of the third-party games. I doubt it. I think that what's going to happen is Xbox is going to have a really powerful, beefy system, and it's going to be a scenario where they're playing the exact same game that runs on your system, but they paid $1,200, $1,500 for an upgrade to play the exact same games. I don't know, man. I would absolutely, positively not move forward if I were PlayStation. I would wait until the AI bubble pops, until you can release consoles for a price point that consoles should be released at, because how it's looking right now, there is absolutely no reason to buy a video game console if you're going to release them at $1,400, $1,000+. That's not normal prices. Consoles were made for normal people to buy and play video games. Those aren't normal prices. People are going to look at that shit, scoff, and walk away from the hobby entirely. I mean, I could go on and on about this. We're 6 years into the damn generation, and Resident Evil 9 is likely to release on the PlayStation 4. We're still dealing with cross-generation output from the big publishers. Like, there is less reason than ever to move forward. The manufactured and the arbitrary, well, it's 6 years for a console life cycle. It's 7 years for a console life cycle. Says who? There's no need to move on. Just chill. Let developers optimize and make the best fucking PlayStation 5 game possible in 2032. Just chill. Things are going great for you. Don't fuck shit up by releasing $1,000 machines. So how about that for a 45-minute rant in the middle of this thing here? And I don't even remember what the hell I said this prediction was. So I don't know how. I'm gonna say PS6 not announced. I almost convinced myself opposite, where I think I'm going to say PS6 not announced. Hybrid 1 is. So the PS6 will not be announced, but the new Xbox Hybrid 1 will be announced in 2026. This is completely spontaneous horseshit, but I did just have a thought that crossed my mind, and let me know if you think I'm crazy. Do you think it could be possible that the Steam machine is indefinitely delayed? Because once again, when looking at Valve, like, I don't think that they obviously couldn't have predicted what was about to happen with RAM prices just ballooning almost immediately after the announcement of the Steam machine, and which obviously it wasn't immediately after, but you get what I'm saying. It was just like the worst timing possible. I wonder, does Valve just say, look, we don't want to sell our consumers the $1,200 Steam machine that's less powerful than a PS5 and a Series X? Like, that's crazy. So do you think there's a possibility that I know that, okay, listen, this is not this is kind of just like throwing fucking darts. As I say, the Steam machine sells 50% less than the Series. These two predictions it's impossible for them to go together and exist in the same year, but I'm going to throw down as well, Steam machine indefinitely delayed. I think that could be a realistic scenario that we see very soon. All right, so our next prediction is more software related, sales related. I think Call of Duty is going to end up as the third best-selling game of 2026. The first time that it is not in the top two since like what, 2010, 2011, something like that. And I mean, pretty much every year that Call of Duty releases, it is the best-selling game of that year. And we've seen this begin to slip and fade away in past years. 2023 Hogwarts Legacy outsold it. In 2025 Battlefield 6 outsold it, at least for the time being. We haven't had the final data submitted yet. We'll get that in January from Circana, but as of right now, it's looking like Battlefield 6 is going to be the best-selling game of 2025, which is fucking crazy. And listen, this is not a shocking to say Call of Duty, whatever the next game, the Call of Duty 2026 is going to sell, it's going to be number 2. That wouldn't be a shocking prediction because every year that a Rockstar game comes out, it outsells Call of Duty. But to say it's going to be number 3, that's where I'm trying to take an extra stab here, trying to get a little bit wilder with my prediction. And I don't really know what that second game could be, if I'm being completely transparent. Like, Grand Theft Auto 6 will obviously outsell Call of Duty in the first 10 minutes after it launches, but like, I don't know what the other game would be. It's not going to be Half-Life 3. Half-Life 3 isn't going to sell a fraction of what Call of Duty sells. I really don't fucking know. Let's look through the list of games in 2026. Yeah, I don't know. As I'm looking at it, guys, I got to be completely honest. I might be full of shit. Resident Evil Requiem is not going to outsell Call of Duty. Fable's not going to outsell Call of Duty. Sorrows is not going to outsell Call of Duty. Pragmata's not. Neo's definitely not. Code Vein 2 is definitely not. High on Life 2 is definitely not. 007 First Light. I mean, 007 First Light, maybe, but probably fucking not. The only reason I even say maybe is because it's multi-platform, available everywhere, huge IP that hasn't been around in for fucking ever. Yeah, Lego Batman. You know what? Here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to leave my prediction as is because I don't want to waffle on this. I want to stick with my prediction that Call of Duty ends up as the third best-selling game of 2026 behind Grand Theft Auto 6 and something else. I don't know what that something else is just yet, but I do think there will be something else that outsells Call of Duty in 2026. Grand Theft Auto 6 and one more thing. Let's kind of stick in here with Grand Theft Auto 6 for a minute, because I was thinking, like, trying to figure out the prediction for Grand Theft Auto 6. Like, what is the prediction for GTA 6 in 2026? And I'm like, am I going to predict it gets delayed again? That I almost don't even want to speak that into existence, so I'm not going to say that, although I do have my worries that it does get delayed again. Do I predict that Grand Theft Auto 6 slightly disappoints? I do think that that's one I kind of lean towards quite a bit, and I'm hoping that that's not just my naturally skeptical or my naturally cynical mind just going negative, pessimistic immediately without really having any reason to do so. And so I'm like, all right, well, let's not go there. Let's try to think of what is the thing Grand Theft Auto 6 could do that would actually, like, genuinely surprise people. And I was like, oh, fuck. I think the thing that it's going to do that's going to surprise people is, what if GTA 6 is best love story in video game history? What if it is the best, like, romantic drama in the history of video games? Because, like, I think we're in this era of it is damn near impossible to do anything for the first time. It is impossible to be first at bat, hit something out the park that no one expects, because everyone kind of expects everything because everything has already been done before. And it's like, it is really hard to surprise players anymore because we've all been playing games for so fucking long. The average age of a game player is now like 40 years old. And, well, shit, 40 years old, that means you've probably seen pretty much the entire evolution of this medium, and you kind of you kind of got an idea of what stories are going to be in video games. And sure, they're getting better, they're evolving, and we're getting some of the best stories we've ever had. The Witcher 3 into Red Dead 2 into The Last, like so forth and so on. But like, those are great stories, but those are stories and templates for stories that we have seen time and time again. And so I'm like, well, what the fuck can Grand Theft Auto 6 do to separate it? And then I'm like, oh, right, they're showing you what they're trying to do. I think they're genuinely going to try to tell you like a very compelling love story where you actually are like rooting for this relationship to work out and you genuinely care for these like handcrafted relationships that like it's different than a Geralt and Yennefer, or, Shepard and whoever you choose, or like in RPGs, it's often your character and who you're choosing to romance. These are two characters that are handcrafted to make you give a shit about the fate of their relationship. And from everything we've seen in the trailer, they really highlight the bond between these two and the affection and the care that they have for one another and how ride or die they are for one another. And I love that. That's really fucking cool. If that's the direction they're going, where they're not going to try to pull some bait and switch where it's like, oh, he's an asshole. Oh, she's an asshole. Oh, he cheated. Oh, she cheated. It's like, well, fuck, man. That's almost more predictable. I think the coolest thing they could possibly do here is just portray two characters who are so fucking down for each other. And I don't know. I think that would be really, really sweet. And that'd be, I'd like to see that. So that's going to be my prediction. Maybe that's me leaning a little bit too positive, but I think they're going to tell the best love story in video game history. And once again, I will fully grant you, like, yes, you are correct in thinking what you're thinking right now, which is probably, well, that's cool and all, but there aren't any really good love stories in video games. It's like, well, yeah. So even if Grand Theft Auto 6 is the best love story, it might end up being like a 8.5 out of 10 love story. That's still the best ever, but I don't know. Fucking Nate and Elena, goddamn James and Mary. That's a real beautiful love story you should tell your kids about. Silent Hill 2, the story of James and Mary. All right, next up on my prediction list is going to be, this is a very, very broad one. I think that 2026 is going to be the best year of announcements in video game history. I think we're going to have the best Summer Game Fest showcase we've ever had. I think we're going to have the best Game Awards show we've ever had. I think we're going to have the best, like some of the best PlayStation showcases. Maybe not so much Xbox. I definitely think we're going to have the best Nintendo Direct we've ever had. Or not ever had, but one of the best Nintendo Directs we've ever had in 2026. And there's kind of like this, there's so many reasons that merge together for my belief here. And the biggest reason is, for one, with the Switch. I mean, we're kind of at that point now where we had the first year. We got the launch window lineup out the way, and now it's like, okay, show people what's next. And that's a very big step, to be like, okay, we now need to let people know what the next year plus looks like for this system and why you should pick it up. So I expect you are going to get very, very monumental, like humongous announcements from Nintendo in 2026 to get people to buy in. Especially, we saw that, the holiday sales were not incredible for the Switch 2. It's no doubt it's the best-selling, fastest-selling video game console of all time, so it's not like they're really worried too much, but you still want that trajectory to stay steady. It's obviously going to drop a little bit as years go on, but you don't want it to have a quick fall off. And with Metroid Prime 4 not quite being like that, 9.4 out of 10 that you want from a Metroid Prime, like with Metroid Prime 1 in comparison, you do need that software to bolster the hardware sales to get people to go out and drop $400+ on this machine. But then you have PlayStation, who is right at that point now where they're recovering from a lot of their major blunders. So The blunders begin in 2020, the live service just absolute shit show that they rolled out. And they started course correcting in 2023. That was when they noticed shit was going really, really fucking bad. And they started making cuts, cutting entire studios, unfortunately, cutting games, canceling projects. And then 2024 was the real disaster where you saw the fruits of the labor. Concord comes out, which is just an unmitigated fucking flop. Like it's you can't compare it to anything else that's ever happened. It's the biggest flop in the history of this industry. And so they are now massively on the ropes, needing to gain that goodwill back quickly. And you also have the fact that fucking Grand Theft Auto 6 is delayed out of, it got pushed towards the end of 2026. So you start thinking about all the games that were targeting a holiday 2026 launch that are now going, okay, well, we were going to launch our trailer at the Game Awards, or we were going to launch our trailer at Summer Game Fest, but now saying we were going to launch our trailer at the Game Awards 2025, or we were going to launch our trailer at Summer Game Fest 2026 and then launch our game holiday 2026. But now, what if they're going, okay, we're going to launch our trailer at the Game Awards 2026 and launch mid or early 2027 to give GTA 6 that window for holiday 2026. So I think that this is going to be a slightly slower year when you're talking about just sheer quantity. I don't think you're going to have the sheer quantity of releases in 2026 like you had, that you have in 2026 like you had in 2025. But I think that this is going to be a major building year for like a fucking humongous 2027. I think 2027 is going to be filled to the brim. I think Intergalactic will probably slip to 2027, but you're going to have big games being shown off and ready to launch in 2027. So yeah, that's my prediction. 2026 is going to be one of the best years ever for video game announcements. But you know what? While we're right there talking about announcements, how about we just go ahead and hop straight into it with the prediction extravaganza? Let's hop into the next segment, which are the top 10 or 12 or how many ever I have down here. The biggest announcements that I think we are going to get in 2026. And as you see on the screen, I do think you will see Final Fantasy VII Part 3. I don't think this is a shocker whatsoever. I think you do get the new trailer announced, and like actually a new big trailer announced in 2026 with the release date for 2027. Or maybe it says like holiday 2027. Or maybe it does the thing again where it just says winter, and that means like early 2028, and we see a February launch again like we did with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. But I think that game is not far off whatsoever. So first prediction on the board, Final Fantasy VII Part 3 will be announced in 2026. The next Star Wars game from Respawn, I do believe, will be announced in 2026 as well. The follow-up to the absolutely incredible Jedi Survivor. The story needs to continue. They left it off, not necessarily with a cliffhanger, but they left it off in a great place to push forward. And I think they're going to close off the trilogy. I think it'll be the final game in the series. I think they've already stated that, if I'm not mistaken. But Jedi Survivor was just absolutely excellent, and they're so consistent with their releases. Fallen Order 2019 into Survivor in 2023. So, I mean, you're talking about a 4-year turnaround. So we're kind of right along that timeline now, where in 2026, you're 3 years out from the release of Survivor. You look at 2027 as probably the most likely year that the third game releases. Let's get one weird one on the board real quick. Techland. Dying Light has been incredibly profitable, incredibly successful for Techland, and there were recent rumors that they were going to be working on a Call of Juarez game. And at first I'm like, what in the fuck are you guys thinking? And then the more I thought about it, I was like, ooh, a Western? Could you maybe throw in a little bit of vampire energy in the mix there? Evil West vibes thrown in there. And then I just started thinking about like some of the cool ass shit they could be doing, like bullet time mechanics, jumping off of a damn tavern, falling into a bale of hay, and doing some slow time, bullet time mechanics like Max Payne as you're shooting at some fucking werewolf vampires in the Wild West. Like, I just think that there's some really wild and chaotic shit that they could pull off because their parkour is excellent. So I start thinking about that type of exploration and movement, especially if you're not trying to make anything too slow and methodical, like leaning into that element of a Western and just kind of being a campy Western. I think they could really make some sick shit with a Call of Juarez game. So I think we get that announced in 2026. That's one that's like, I think we get that. I don't think we get that announced. I have no idea whatsoever, but I think that'd be a dope announcement in 2026. Obviously, everyone is worried about the fate of Mass Effect, but if reports are to be believed, they still have a team of about 50 or 75 people working on the next Mass Effect game, and with Saudi Arabia purchasing EA and infusing a bunch of cash into Electronic Arts, even though there's the whole debt situation that they're having to pay back year over year, and I am not necessarily hopeful for Mass Effect, but I remember that Jeff Grubb a while back was stating that it was probably going to launch in 2028. So if that's the case, a gameplay trailer in 2026, but no official like release date given, and then we maybe get that release date in 2027 for 2028. Does it slip to 2029? Like I could see all of that, but yeah, a new trailer for Mass Effect. I think that makes sense in 2026. I mean, this is one that we already talked about, obviously, so I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I do think that we see Half-Life 3 officially announced and released, despite whatever happens with the Steam machine. If Valve ends up canceling the Steam machine or indefinitely delaying it, I don't think that is really going to impact the fate of Half-Life 3 at all. I think it would have been great to launch it simultaneously with the release of the Steam machine. I don't think that future is intact anymore, but yeah, we're still going to get Half-Life 3. I feel pretty confident about that. So this next prediction is a weird one because I do think we see Elder Scrolls 6 for the first time in 2026 in-engine footage of some sort for Elder Scrolls 6 in 2026. How I could see it being rolled out. And you gotta... there's so many hoops we have to jump through to make any logical sense of this argument that I'm going to lay out here. But hear me out. If there is a world where Xbox wants to sell an Xbox and they're going to release a new Xbox that they actually want to sell, for one, I don't believe there's a world that we exist in currently where that's a reality. But let's say it's a possibility. Well, let's go back to what we were talking about earlier. Could there be a scenario where, sure, we're going to launch this new hybrid PC thing onto the market. It's going to be $1,500 or over $1,000, a crazy price that most people won't pay. Well, how could we get them to pay that price? What if the Elder Scrolls 6 was only available on that Xbox because it can't run on a PlayStation 5? And is that the scenario where PlayStation is looking and being like, motherfucking fuck, we got to launch a PS6. We're missing out on a new Elder Scrolls game because of our lesser powered hardware. I don't think any of this is going to happen. Elder Scrolls 6 has obviously been in development for quite some time for current gen technology. So yeah, I don't think that any of this is going to happen, but in a world where if you really cared about the success of your hardware, you can obviously manipulate some marketing and be like, well, yeah, it ain't going to run on a PS5. We wanted to put it there, but we can't. It's going to be exclusive to the Xbox Hybrid One. And so, but I do think that a fucking great, even regardless if it's exclusive, if it's not, we know it's not going to be, but let's just say in a scenario where they reveal the Xbox Hybrid One, a great game to reveal alongside it, just to imprint it in people's mind is, Elder Scrolls 6. And say it's launching day and date with it, or a launch window title. Like, that's a huge, huge get, regardless if it's exclusive well, I mean, it doesn't, I don't think it's going to move the needle if it's not exclusive in terms of like, I don't think it's going to push your hardware much more, but it's still going to be something that people at the very least remember about the reveal of your hardware. So it'll at least be in people's mind. I think at the Game Awards this year, late in 2026, we get the reveal of Code Veronica, and we also get the reveal that it is launching in 2027. I think they launch Code Veronica first, get Code Veronica out the door, released. I think people are going to really love that game. And then in 2027, they announce Resident Evil 0 for a release in 2028. And then we're kind of back into that yearly cadence for Resident Evil releases. You can call me crazy for this one, and I would completely understand and agree with you, but I think it's fucking nuts that Capcom refuses to touch Dino Crisis. Like, at all. I mean, to be fair, they did put the games out on PlayStation Plus through the classic catalog, but I think that this series would sell like fucking hotcakes. And I think we're at the point now where that's like one of the big questions. Do you sacrifice future Resident Evil games and the sales, the guaranteed sales success that comes with those titles to make a Dino Crisis game? Because you have to probably pick one or the other. I think you are going to have to put one of those Resident Evil teams on Dino Crisis, although it's not like Capcom couldn't build a smaller internal team to go and work on, like a very lean team to go and work on a Dino Crisis remake. I don't think it's necessarily, I mean, it's going to be challenging, no doubt. I'm not saying it's some easy project to take over, but I do think that at this point right now, with the remaining Resident Evil games that you have on your slate, I think a Dino Crisis 1 remake would sell more than every Resident Evil game that you have left to remake. I think Dino Crisis 1, if you remade Dino Crisis 1 and it comes out in 2027, and then Resident Evil 0 comes out in 2028, I think Dino Crisis 1 outsells it. A remake of Dino Crisis 1. I think it outsells it. I could be crazy. And then, once again, I am wrong all the fucking time, and I'm very happy to admit when I'm wrong. I like being wrong because that means you learn something. But I would be shocked if Dino Crisis 1 was outsold by Resident Evil 0. So, at some point, they got to do it, man. And speaking of at some point, you got to do it. Fallout New Vegas, at some point, you got to do it. And I think that that moment is probably 2026 for the announcement. And I think you're getting Fallout New Vegas 2. I think you're getting, maybe not necessarily Fallout New Vegas 2, but I think you're getting something new from Fallout New Vegas, or something where Obsidian is taking the Fallout, and maybe not even necessarily New Vegas. Just, I think you're going to get a new Obsidian Fallout title, because you look at the landscape of releases for Obsidian. They got Avowed out the door in 2025. They got Grounded out the door in 2025. Well, I guess they got to go into 1.0 in 2026, but they got The Outer Worlds 2 out the door in 2025. So their slate is fairly clean, and we know Josh Sawyer is off working on something more ambitious, and they just brought back Tim Kaine to go and work on something. So they got some shit in the cooker, no doubt about it. And it's just like, it remains to be seen what they're cooking. I'd have a tough time believing that there's nothing at all related to Fallout New Vegas in the cooker. I think the most likely is that it's a remake. We know Fallout 3 is going to get a remake. Do you just follow that up with Fallout New Vegas getting a remake for the next year? Sure. That would satisfy people. I'd be satisfied with that as well. But something new would always be more exciting. And speaking of big names and big games, Spider-Man 2 dropped in 2023. Miles Morales dropped in 2020. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart in 2021. Insomniac is incredibly consistent. I would not be shocked whatsoever if Wolverine launches in, let's say Wolverine launches in October, and then Spider-Man 3 gets a teaser trailer at the Game Awards in December. I don't think that would be overly shocking. I think that if you got something like really big to tease, And maybe do you tease that? Do you tease that there's a crossover of Wolverine and Spider-Man in Spider-Man 3, or is another big playable hero? Do you get to play as Venom in Spider-Man 3, where it was initially going to be Venom having his own standalone game? Is it now that you play as Venom in Spider-Man 2 and you're working with Venom in Spider-Man, or you're working with Venom in Spider-Man 3, playing as, getting to play as Venom as well? I think that there could be something there. I don't think they're going to do all of that work to, make Venom playable and then have his own game just to completely scrap it. That would be really damn unfortunate. And probably the biggest announcement that I think we get in 2026 is I think we might get the release date for The Witcher 4 in 2026. And it might just be a nebulous 2027 that they throw out there and then it gets pushed to 2028. But I think certainly, like, without a shadow of a doubt, we get a gameplay trailer for The Witcher 4 in 2026. Maybe it doesn't have a date on it just yet, but I do think we get a gameplay trailer to see how far along this thing is coming, and it's not this tech demo, Unreal 5 tech demo thing. I think you actually see like a genuine slice of gameplay for The Witcher 4 in 2026. Yeah, and I mean, like, I could keep going on and on about all the different announcements that I think you're going to see in 2026. I do think it's going to be a jam-packed year. I think obviously, you're going to get another look at Intergalactic. I think you're going to get another look at Kingdom Hearts 4. I think you're going to get another look at Persona 6, or I guess the first look at Persona 6. Like, just when you start thinking of, it's about time for so many different things to be revealed, and it's about time for so many things that we know about that have been revealed, probably about time for a lot of those things to release. And then, you start getting into your like Sands of Time remake and Assassin's Creed Black Flag. And then you start getting into, oh, well, is Splinter Cell in the works still? Is that possible? There's these things that feel a little bit more, when you start getting into like Beyond Good and Evil, it's like, of course, that's probably not going to happen. That's probably dead in the water. But just as Splinter Cell is probably dead in the water as well. But there's just a lot percolating right now that has either been, a new Dragon Quest, you go on and on down the line, and you're like, damn, 2026 might be a big fucking year for new announcements. But let's go ahead and we'll just lock in these 14 announcement predictions, and apologize for the abbreviation, trying to keep this short and sweet, and then 57 minutes into it, keep it as short and sweet as possible. So we got Jedi Survivor 3, Final Fantasy VII 3, the third version of the remake, Call of Juarez, Half-Life 3. It's so funny to see Call of Juarez in there. Half-Life 3, Mass Effect 5, Elder Scrolls 6, Code Veronica, Dino Crisis, Fallout New Vegas, Spider-Man 3, The Witcher 4, Persona 6, Dragon Quest 12, and Kingdom Hearts 4. And like, I know that sounds fucking crazy, but I actually think we're going to see maybe Call of Juarez, which is the least, I don't think anyone's really all that excited for a new Call of Juarez game, but I think we see pretty much every game on that list. I genuinely think we see almost everything there revealed in 2026, and I'm going to come back to this in 2027 and look like an absolute buffoon, but I'd be stunned if we don't get like 6 or 7 out of those 10. Dino Crisis is very unlikely. Call of Juarez is, I guess, unlikely. I don't even know if unlikely is the right word. I don't think people really care one way or the other. But the other ones I do think we're going to see announced in 2026. All right, so next up in our predictions extravaganza, this 4-hour fucking behemoth of a video, I'm going to do my 2026 video game rating predictions. So I'm going to be predicting the Metacritic score, the top 10 highest rated games on Metacritic in 2026. Number 1, I think, is going to be Half-Life 3. I think Half-Life 3 will come in with around a 96 on Metacritic. If the game is not absolutely fucking incredible, I don't think Valve is going to release it. So if they do release this thing, I do think it's going to be absolutely fucking incredible. And Valve also has a very, very dedicated fan base of people who love this thing, and who the people who love this thing will be reviewing this thing. And yeah, I think it's going to review extremely, extremely well. I think you're going to have all of your ridiculous physics and then all the crazy interactions in place with Half-Life 3 that you could ever possibly want. And yeah, I'm very excited to see what they do to push the medium forward, because I don't think they're going to make a new game without something, with like some twist that we wouldn't expect mechanically or narratively. Just something is going to be in there that is, I think, going to really shock the shit out of people. And so, yes, that does mean that I think Half-Life 3 will be rated higher than Grand Theft Auto 6. I think Grand Theft Auto 6 will come in at number 2, and it'll be close. I think it'll be a 94 for Grand Theft Auto 6. And there's a few reasons why I believe this. Number one is just the fact that many, many, many dozens more people will review Grand Theft Auto 6 than they will for Half-Life 3. So it's just open to more possibility of, having outlets who are just trying to be the lowest rated score on Metacritic so that they can get a couple clicks and get a couple ad dollars. And like, those sites are already out there for every game under the sun, and you see them, them. Either sites who go too low or too high. So I guess that could work either which way. But it's going to be a very tough task to live up to that name. Grand Theft Auto 6, it's coming off the back of one of the best-selling video games in the history of this industry, and it's one of the only franchises ever to have such consistent success on a critical level. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. And you're talking about a 13-year-long wait. You're talking about a over a decade of people building expectations for what this thing can be. So if it slightly underwhelms, if it's slightly disappointed in any angle, then is it going to get dinged disproportionately for that? It could be. It very well could be. Could the online integration be a little bit intrusive? Like, there's so many question marks with this game, and it's hilarious that we're talking like this when I'm predicting it's going to get a 94 out of 100. I still do think it's going to be one of the highest rated games of the year. I think it'll be the second highest rated game of the year. But with that kind of traditional expectation of all of the Grand Theft Autos scoring 95 or higher, I do think this will slip a point or two below that. This is going to be the surprise hit of 2026, in my opinion, and I don't think it's going to surprise a lot of people, because people who played Returnal love fucking Returnal, and they're going to get review copies for Sorrows, and I think they are going to absolutely adore Sorrows. Sorrows is the upcoming game from Housemarque, and it is staying very, very true to the traditional kind of roguelike over-the-top action that you would expect, and it seems to be throwing a little bit more of a narrative into the mix there as well, which I do think could help it kind of get into that upper echelon in terms of review scores with Sorrows compared to Returnal. But yeah, man, I mean, I have no doubt that this game is going to be really, really solid and review really damn well. I do think this could be one of those sleeper hits to win Game of the Year if there is a situation where like GTA 6 isn't eligible or Half-Life 3 doesn't come out. I do think this is very much a sleeper hit for Game of the Year in 2026. And next up at number 4, I think the fourth highest rated game of the year is going to be Clockwork Revolution. And I'm going to say that this comes in at a 91. And we talked about this a little bit earlier, but this is obviously coming from the team that made, Wasteland 3 most recently, In Exile, great CRPG creators, and now they're taking a step forward and really trying to make like a AAA blockbuster first-person role-playing game. And yeah, it looks absolutely excellent. Number 5 on this list, I am going to go with Wolverine Insomniac's Wolverine, but I'm going to go with a little bit of a pretty significant decline here. From 91, I'm going to go all the way down to 88. I think this is going to be a fantastic fucking superhero game. We know Insomniac makes fantastic superhero games. The only thing I worry about with them is the writing. Spider-Man 1 had an exceptional story. Spider-Man 2, less solid in the narrative department. Miles Morales, really good writing across the board there. So I think that having a darker tone and getting a little bit more visceral and trying to, get away from the whimsical nature of Spider-Man could really help Insomniac with Wolverine. But yeah, I'm going to go in 88. Still going to be one of the highest rated games of the year without a shadow of a doubt, but I don't think it's going to crack the 90s. Next up on the list at number 6, I'm going to go Forza Horizon 6. And for the score, I'm going to go an 87 for Forza Horizon 6. Obviously, Playground taking Forza to Japan with Forza Horizon 6. It's the setting that everyone really wanted for years with this franchise. So they're getting their wish fulfilled here. And I mean, there's no doubt that it's going to be excellent. I would be stunned if they dropped the ball with this. This is as bankable as anything on this list. And yeah, so I mean, very, very high 80s. I would be stunned if this thing dipped even into like the mid 80, 85 or below range. I highly fucking doubt it. In at number 7, I think the 7th highest reviewed game of 2026 is going to be Control Resonant. I think that they have a lot to prove in terms of making a action game, like a melee focused action game. That's not their expertise at all. So remains to be seen there. I don't know if it's going to review as high as the first game. To be fair, I don't really remember what the first game reviewed at, but 86 is still going to be, it's still going to be a Remedy ass game, and people are going to be there for the story and the crazy visuals and just the incredible direction. And so yeah, it's going to be a great game, but I wonder if it's going to hit quite the same highs as the first Control. It's doing something very, very different. At number 8, I'm going to go with RE9. And I'm going to say it comes in at an 85, which is a little bit lower than most Resident Evil games as of late. But I do think it's kind of natural for a fandom at some point to just kind of get used to a good thing being really good consistently. And I think this is going to be really fucking good. Just like Resident Evil 4 was really fucking good, and Resident Evil 2 was really fucking good, and RE8 was really fucking good, and RE7 was really fucking good. But like, they don't really differentiate themselves too much from one game to the next. Like RE2 to 3 to 4, very similar. 7 to 8, very similar. And I don't think this is going to do much to differentiate itself at all either. You'll play in a RE7, RE8 style when you're playing as Alyssa. And then when you're playing as Leon, it'll feel like RE2, 3, and 4. I don't think there's going to be anything all that impressive on offer in terms of massive deviations from the previous games in the franchise. But people love the previous games in the franchise. And so for that reason and that reason alone, I think it will still review pretty damn well. It'll just be like the law of diminishing returns. We've gotten a lot of this. So it's less surprising with each new one that we get. At number 9 for my top 10, the rating predictions, I'm going to go with old Duskbloods from Software. And From Software, they feel like they're in their get the bag era, where it's like, we have made our darling, our commercial and critical darling with Elden Ring. We're going to milk the shit out of this with Erdtree into Night Rain and then straight into Duskbloods, 2 back-to-back multiplayer style projects. And we're getting that Nintendo exclusive bag, and we're happy to get it. And I think their big single player, magnum opus is still on the horizon. I mean, their magnum opus was Elden Ring, but I think that they're going to have another big single player, the thing that people really want from Software. I think that'll probably also be announced in 2026, if like late 2026 at the Game Awards, if Duskbloods releases in like the summer, which I suspect it probably will, even though we haven't really seen or heard much from it at all. But regardless, number 10, I'm gonna go 007 First Light. And I'm going to say it comes in around an 83, which sounds a little bit low. However, if you go over here to Metacritic and look at Hitman 3, it's only at an 87, so only 4 points higher than what I am suspecting here for 007. And the only reason I'm expecting the drop is, for one, I think a lot of Hitman players are going to review this, and I think they're going to drop it for not having quite as much like branching possibilities for different ways of executing your enemy, and it's going to be more leaning into the narrative that 007 fans want. So I think it's just going to kind of split the players, where 007 fans are going to want more narrative than they're probably given. Hitman players are going to want less narrative than they're given, and more possibilities and more options for the executions and all that. So I think that it's a tough audience to really find, and it's a tough balance to walk. And also, I think there's going to be some significant performance issues. It's trying to release on the Switch 2, and it's trying to release, if I'm not mistaken, day one on the Switch 2. Probably a good idea to push that off to next year, release on the PlayStation 5, PC, and Series X in 2026, and do the Switch 2 in 2027. But yeah, I can't fucking wait. I think the game looks sick as shit. I'll be there day one checking it out. But yeah, those are my top 10 rating predictions. At number 1, we have Half-Life 3. At number 2, we have Grand Theft Auto 6. Number 3, Soros 4. Clockwork Revolution 5. Wolverine 6. Forza Horizon 6. 7. Control Resonant. 8. RE9. 9. Duskbloods. And 10. 007 First Light. And I think those are all of my big 2026 prediction extravaganza. The full list for the prediction extravaganza has been completed. So I hope y'all all enjoyed this long ass episode. And yeah, man, let me know all of your predictions. Hit me with your rating predictions. Let me know what you think I'm crazy on. If there's any of my picks that I selected here that you're like, you are a lunatic, my friend, let me know in the comments down below and give me your predictions. Your craziest prediction for 2026, the year of our Lord and Savior in the video game space. What is the craziest thing that you think is going to happen in video games in 2026? Let us know in the comments down below, and I shall see you good people in the next video. Goodbye.